dono de tranqueira. He is trying to blackmail Brazil to obviously benefit Flávio Bolsonaro's candidacy. This is unprecedented in history. The United States and Brazil have 200 years of ties, of trade and good relations between the United States and Brazil. And this had never happened before in the history of relations between Brazil and the United States. Look at this situation. The Trump administration cancels the visa of Brazil's ambassador to the United States. Ambassador Maria Luisa Viotti, head of the United States Embassy. Her visa was revoked because she works there at the embassy in the United States. Did you understand? And Donald Trump simply canceled her visa. What does Donald Trump want, Andrea? A fight. He wants a fight. To have a justification to maybe even kidnap and arrest Lula. To interfere in the electoral process. To benefit Flávio Bolsonaro. Because Flávio Bolsonaro is a lackey. He's a bootlicker. And Flávio Bolsonaro has even promised Donald Trump the government itself. Flávio Bolsonaro, in one of the letters he wrote to Donald Trump last month, that leaked, we found out, he promised that the entire cabinet and all control of the transition government he would give to Donald Trump. In other words, if Flávio wins, the one who will rule Brazil is the United States. Just like what's happening in Venezuela, where the United States is stealing all the gold and all the oil from Venezuela. He went there, kidnapped Maduro, and arrested Maduro. It's not because he wanted to solve Venezuela's crime problem or solve Venezuela's problems at all. It's because he wanted to do what he's doing right now. It's televised, out in the open, and obvious to everyone. He's robbing Venezuela day and night. Stealing all the oil and gold from Venezuela. That's what he wants to do with Brazil. He doesn't want to solve our problems. No, stop being an idiot. He's not worried about the terrorists, about the Red Command, about the PCC. No, those are just excuses, subterfuges to give an air of legality and of fairness and integrity of the invasion he wants to carry out, of the interference he wants to carry out in Brazil. To steal our rare earths, to steal our oil, to steal the Amazon, to steal our gold, to steal our water, to steal our timber, to steal everything good that we have. And Flávio Bolsonaro is a lackey, a lapdog, a bootlicker for the United States. That's why Donald Trump is doing this. He's picking fights in every possible way with Brazil to justify an even greater intervention in Brazil. And I've already told you, and I'll say it again, Lula has to be very careful, very careful. Donald Trump is a crazy fascist. Yes. And Lula has to be very careful. I heard that Donald Trump, as we know, right? This has already been reported. He's already meeting with influencers. The São Paulo consulate is holding meetings with influencers, with YouTubers, with people from TikTok, from Instagram and so on, for these people to work in favor of Flávio Bolsonaro attacking Lula. I also heard that he is also getting in touch with mainstream media journalists, promising visas, facilitating visas, a series of things so that those journalists who attack Lula will benefit. Flávio Bolsonaro. The United States is already interfering in the electoral process and in Brazil. Not only with the issue of high tariffs, not only the official matters that we know about, But behind the scenes, they are infiltrating and trying to get into every sphere to benefit Flavio Bolsonaro, including what. Look how nice. And where there are already groups of lackeys, bootlickers, traitors to the country in the armed forces already saying, if there's any situation, we'll hand it over. And joins the other side. Are these behind the scenes conversations, Andre? Are they? They are voices in situations, yes. Do you have any proof, anything? No. But I don't doubt it. On the contrary, I believe it. Latin America, my dear. Today, it's the center of interest for the United States. Paraguay, Colombia, and several other countries have already succumbed to the United States. And the greatest power in Latin America is called Brazil. And so Lula could sit down and talk with Trump and all that, and in fact, he already did. It's just that in every negotiation, what do you need to have? The money. What do you need to have? What's in it for you there and what's in it for me here? Isn't that right? It is. And Trump, he doesn't want that. He doesn't want that. He just wants the money. Just your kingdom, your kingdom. Did you understand? And Lula didn't accept it, and Lula doesn't accept that. Because there has to be some benefit for the Brazilian people. If Donald Trump, for example, wants to have access to our rare earths, let's sit down and talk. And Lula did that. But Donald Trump, he doesn't have anything to offer in return. He just wants to say, give it to me. Give me, give me, give me. I want it. I want everything. Give me everything. And you have nothing to offer in return. And Lula didn't accept that. And why am I explaining this to you? Because the Bolsonaro supporters are saying that Lula confronted Trump and that Lula didn't negotiate and that Lula didn't talk to him and that Lula, that's a lie. How many times did Lula seek Trump out? How many times did Lula meet and talk with Trump? No, shall we do it? Let's do it. It'll work out well for you this way. Okay, and for me, it's good like this. Let's go. You win and I win. Let's go. Let's go. And Trump didn't. Trump, with that haughtiness, with that smugness, with that arrogance of his, just wanting the payoff. And that's not negotiation. That's subservience. We are not a colony of the United States. We are not the United States lapdogs. And that's why Trump is doing everything he's doing to provoke an unsustainable situation where he could even intervene militarily in Brazil. Thank you. And that nonsense about saying that Comando Vermelho and PCC are terrorist groups. And I'm not defending the PCC or Comando Vermelho here. No, they have to go to jail, rot in jail, and face the consequences. The police end up in a coffin. They go to the cemetery. But a terrorist is something else. And he did this exactly because American law says that where there are terrorists, the United States can even invade with the military and take control of the country. And he's trying. Pay attention. Donald Trump is trying to create an environment that justifies, obviously under false pretenses, his intervention in Brazil. Not to solve problems in Brazil, nor to fight crime, but to overthrow Lula so that his vassal Flavio Bolsonaro wins the election. And he's already doing that. I'll repeat, even among the military in Brazil. And we know that many coup plotters were not held accountable and that they are in positions of power, notably in the armed forces, or not. Or are you going to forget about that general who forbade the police from arresting the coup plotters who were at the camp and from going in there? He only allowed them in the next day, and many escaped and avoided jail. And many are plotting again. Not without reason, because yesterday there was an operation by the civil police together with the federal police in the federal district in Brasilia, and dismantling an organization that was plotting and planning acts of terror attacks. In the second round in the electoral race. But what happened yesterday, pay attention to what I'm going to tell you, is nothing. It's nothing. Then comes Lula's defense minister, Muccio, and says that if they come, we really have to back down and hand everything over. Because Brazil doesn't have the means or the capacity to take on the United States militarily. Did Muccio lie, Andrea? No. But it's not up to him to say that, especially as the Minister of Defense. On the contrary. Then you say, Andrea, what you're saying is very serious, but it's all very serious. Because Donald Trump is a crazy fascist. And he wants Brazil to become like Venezuela. A place for him to steal and take away all the wealth. And Brazil is not in a position to go up against the United States militarily. So what does Brazil have to do then, Andrea? Brazil has to do what Muccio said, just give in. Lula needs to get ready for the worst, hoping for the best. What would be the best? That nothing happens, that Donald Trump is talked out of it, that he backs down at the last minute and says, no, I'm not going to do this, because otherwise I'll start a fight with the whole world. So I'm not going to do this. So Lula has to prepare for the worst. Hoping for the best, obviously always having hope. And what would that be, Andrea? Preparing for the worst. A bullet is a bullet. Come on. People are going to give me hell for saying bullet. Ammunition is ammunition. A 38 kills just the same as a 9mm. Getting ready for the worst is holding on under pressure so you have time to escape. Andrea, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. We can't underestimate the far right. They are extremely dangerous. January 8th was nothing. Pay attention to what I'm saying. Lula has to prepare for the worst. Always hoping for the best, of course, and to buy time. To reach a safe place. Safe. That can be done. Can it be done, Andrea? It can. It can. That can be done. Now, trying to take it on and hold out for 2, 3, 5 months like Iran is doing, that's not possible. No. I'm not going to lie. But you can hold on long enough to get to a safe place. And worldwide, the world will tremble. That's why I say we have to prepare for the worst while working and believing in the best. Because if that happens, Donald Trump is stirring up chaos in the world. Because Brazil has many partners and powerful partners like China and Russia. And I'll repeat, Donald Trump is trying to interfere on social media and is already doing it. He is trying to move into the sphere of journalists and the corporate media. He is already doing it. And within the military, there are already groups that are ready to switch sides and betray Lula. Lula needs to prepare to hold on as long as possible and go to a safe place. Is this the worst case scenario, Andre? No, it could get even worse. But always looking for the best, that he's just bluffing, that Trump is just bluffing. But the bluff, that's the problem. The bluff is having real consequences, so it's not just a bluff. And we Brazilians, we have a tendency to underestimate. We underestimated Bolsonaro, which led to the resulting mess. And Bolsonaro became president of the republic where more than 700,000 people died. Not to mention other situations. You don't mess with fascists. You don't underestimate the far right. And that's exactly what Trump is. Put Lula as a four-time winner. Lula is a four-time winner. And we will be with him. And I'm sure that Lula has all this expertise and everything I'm talking about. I know that he knows. And I believe that he is taking the necessary measures. If it were me, I would be armed to the teeth. Ready? Because you don't mess with the far right. It's dangerous. It's hateful. It's treacherous. And the traitors are not far away, right, Muccio? The traitors are close. Shall we listen to a speech from Ivan Valente? Always very constructive. Don't forget to like the live stream, everyone. Like the live stream, it's very important.
See, Trump wants to mess up the elections on behalf of Flavio Bolsonaro. He just suspended the visa of the Brazilian ambassador, Maria Luisa Viotti, and considered her persona non grata. Look, he's practically breaking off diplomatic relations. Do you know what the pretext is? It's this. These two traitors here, look, Dudu Bananinha and Flavio Bolsonaro, traitors to the country, criminals, are making moves in that direction. The United States wants to interfere in the election. They want to put Flavio in and defeat Lula. We will not allow it. The Brazilian people, in the name of national sovereignty, will not allow it. What's the pretext? They are claiming that they nominated an ambassador, someone named Daniel Perez, who hasn't been confirmed in the Senate there yet. This guy is a congressman from Florida, a lackey of Marco Rubio, a spy who came here for the elections. It's been over 2 years since Trump appointed an ambassador to Brazil. Now they want Brazil to respond in a month without consulting the Brazilian people, the Brazilian government, or Brazil's foreign ministry. That's the pretext. 15 days ago, they wanted to send in 2 guys from the State Department, probably from the CIA, to come and mess up the elections, saying they were going to observe electronic voting machines and freedom of speech. Alibi. The Brazilian response needs to be tough. This is a provocation from Trump and Marco Rubio. We are not obligated. We were not consulted in any country. In a month, we have to grant approval. In other words, sign off that this is the ambassador. That's a lie. The Brazilian people need to repudiate it. The Brazilian justice system has to take a stand regarding Flavio Bolsonaro's doubts about the voting machines. It's also a provocation. It's criminal behavior. It's the already lost attitude and not accepting the result. Americans will not set foot in Brazil. You are interventionists. There's no democracy in that. Brazil is the biggest democracy. Trump out of Brazil. Flavio Bolsonaro out.
Then the Bolsonarists, obviously, who work with half-truths, which are well-told lies, are saying this. Trump is right, because Brazil also didn't accept the United States ambassador there in Brazil. The thing is, it's not easy to become an ambassador. Several requirements must be met to become an ambassador. One of those requirements is that you need to be approved by the Senate. Do you remember Dudu Bananinha? Back when he wanted to be, I don't know, whatever, while his father was president, Dudu Bananinha always wanted to live in the United States. Later, he wanted to be Brazil's ambassador there. Do you remember that? And it didn't pan out. Why didn't it pan out? Because the Senate at that time, so and so said, look, we're not going to approve Eduardo Bolsonaro. No, he doesn't meet the requirements to be an ambassador. The ambassador, we're not going to approve it. Do you understand? It's the same in the United States. To become an ambassador, you need to be nominated, you need to have the education, the qualifications, and the government's nomination, but you also need to be approved by the Senate there. And this guy that Donald Trump sent to Brazil, saying that he is going to be the United States ambassador to Brazil, he hasn't been approved by the Senate in the United States. So Brazil can't accept someone who hasn't gone through all the legal and constitutional procedures to be a representative of a country here in Brazil. That's why Brazil hasn't accepted this United States ambassador to this day. He wasn't approved by the Senate there in the United States. How is he going to be an ambassador here, guys? There's no way. Then now last month, the United States sent, they intervened, then they sent. They claimed they'd oversee the election, but that's false. They were people who were going to try to interfere in the electoral process here in Brazil. Brazil refused and didn't issue them a visa. And that's it, it's over. And that's it, it's over. Then Donald Trump, right, said that he canceled the ambassador's visa, fully cleared, already approved, everything in order, already there as ambassador because Brazil didn't accept his. They didn't accept his since it wasn't approved in the Senate. Obviously, this story I'm telling you, the Bolsonaro supporters won't tell you. They only go with half the truth. Look, Brazil didn't accept the United States. The United States didn't accept Brazil's. Okay, Donald Trump, stop being a lapdog. Stop being a lackey. Stop being an idiot. Wake up. How long are you going to be used and manipulated because of your lack of knowledge by the Bolsonarists, by the far right?
I know. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
It's because you like them, because you're one of them. Homophobic, sexist, misogynistic. Yeah, racist coup supporter. I get it. That's why. Yeah, because some people are just stupid. Because to be a Bolsonarist today, you have to be really dumb. To support Flavio Bolsonaro, you have to be really dumb, or else you have to be one of them. Racist, fascist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, pathetic. That's it? No, that explains it. Congressman Lindenberg Farias also spoke out about this situation here. Absurd.
Unacceptable, guys. The Trump administration has just revoked Maria Luisa Viotti's visa, the ambassador of Brazil to the United States. This is a measure that prevents the ambassador of Brazil to the United States from performing her duties. I think Flavio Bolsonaro and Eduardo Bolsonaro must be celebrating, right? All this conspiracy against Brazil, the tariffs, all this campaign with the American far right, to Marco Rubio from the US State Department. But Brazil belongs to Brazilians. We have a proud president of the Republic who is Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. And Brazil will not give in to provocations like this. Unacceptable, folks. Trump's government has just revoked it.
That's right. That's the situation regarding this. And Trump, go take a hike. Go take care of your people, Trump. People in the United States are suffering, with many already going hungry. Yeah, you have the highest disapproval in history over there already, Donald Trump. Donald Trump, he can't even get his own successor unless he stages a coup. People over there are so fed up with Donald Trump. It's just like Javier Milei. It's the same situation with Javier Milei. It's a terrible situation over there. Then Javier Milei, instead of taking care of his people, right? He keeps giving his opinion and attacking Lula. Donald Trump, instead of taking care of his own country, taking care of his own people, keeps attacking, lying, and attacking Lula. Lula really shines, right, guys? Lula really bothers these people, doesn't he? Donald Trump keeps talking about drug traffickers and other things. The United States is currently experiencing an epidemic, a drug epidemic. Why doesn't he fix it there? The United States is actually going through a measles epidemic. Did you know that? Because of the anti-vaxxers over there. The United States is going through a measles epidemic right now because of the denialists who are there, lying, spreading nonsense, denying vaccines, and all the rest. Go worry about your own country, Donald Trump. You won't even be able to get your successor elected. Absurd. Absurd. Meanwhile, Moraes asked the Attorney General for a 5-day deadline. He actually gives it, right? He sets a 5-day deadline for the Attorney General to comment on the decision that prevents Bolsonaro from receiving visitors, especially Flavio Bolsonaro. What happens? Do you remember that Flavio Bolsonaro started playing politics with his father, who is now an inmate? Visiting there and playing politics. He released a letter. I don't know what else. Bolsonaro said he didn't authorize that letter. Bolsonaro said he didn't authorize the AI-generated video they used at the convention, and so on and so forth. Then Alexandre de Moraes, in order not to send Bolsonaro back to Papuda, Alexandre de Moraes then banned Flavio Bolsonaro's visit. And this is just political maneuvering, because if it were up to Flavio Bolsonaro, Eduardo Bolsonaro and Carlos Bolsonaro, Bolsonaro goes back to prison. Because they're not worried about their father. They're worried about being in the spotlight and acting like they're being persecuted, like they're poor victims, ruined, persecuted by the communist dictatorship of the federal police, the Attorney General's office, Alexandre de Moraes, Lula, me, you, and so on. And Alexandre de Moraes, so he wouldn't fall into that trap, did what? No, I'm going to forbid the guy from visiting his father because he's trying to get his father sent back to prison again. So he forbade it. Then their lawyers filed an appeal. Alexandre de Moraes now wants the prosecutor general's position. Here's the thing. If the attorney general says, no, let Flavio visit. Because Flavio said he wants to visit him because he's not visiting as a son. He's visiting as a lawyer. The Bar Association says lawyers have the right to visit their clients even in prison. So that was the strategy used by Flavio. Now Alexandre de Moraes wants to know the position of the Attorney General. And the position of the Attorney General will be extremely important. Because if the Attorney General says that Flavio can visit his father, very likely they will cause trouble again, and Bolsonaro and Alexandre de Moraes will have to send Bolsonaro back to Papuda and take him out of house arrest. Now, the Attorney General can simply say checkmate and say, lawyer, he works to defend his client and not to harm his client. And that's what Flavio is doing. In my view, that would be my position if I were the Attorney General. I would say there's no way Flavio Bolsonaro can be Bolsonaro's lawyer because he's not working to defend Bolsonaro's interests. He works, it seems, which is to send Bolsonaro back to prison. So there's no way. It's better, at least during this election period, not to have that contact. Because a lawyer defends. A lawyer doesn't worsen a client's situation. And what Flavio Bolsonaro is trying to do regarding Bolsonaro is make his situation worse. So the position of the Attorney General will be very important because I believe that from the Attorney General's position, Alexandre de Moraes will follow this guidance from the Attorney General. If Flavio Bolsonaro can visit Bolsonaro, they'll cause trouble and Bolsonaro will end up back in prison. Not because Alexandre de Moraes wanted that, but because the Bolsonaro family caused that. Because they don't care about Bolsonaro. They just want to be in the spotlight to see if Flavio Bolsonaro makes it. And an important decision here at the National Justice Council. Lava Jato. The National Justice Council has formed a majority to suspend Judge Gabriela Hart for 2 years. The council considered actions taken in the Lava Jato case, especially the approval of an agreement to create a private foundation with funds from fines estimated at $2 billion. Signed and approved by then Judge Gabriela. What happened? During the Lava Jato operation, they seized a lot of money and so on. Then they decided to create a fund. Look at that. What an interesting thing, right? Because everything that is seized as a result of a crime goes to the public fund. It goes to the public treasury, you know? And that a lot of it is used for policies supporting law enforcement and the justice system and so on. And they simply brought together Gabriela, Sergio Moro, and especially Deltan Dalagnol. They decided to create a fund, which is an account, and take the money that was being seized and invest it in this account and create a foundation. Look at that. Where they would manage the money. Oh my God. Oh Jesus. The National Council of Justice has decided to remove her from office for 2 years. I want you to understand, as many people are outraged. This decision is only regarding the approval of this foundation by the judge. It's due to her irregular actions. She still has to face civil and criminal proceedings, as well as an administrative disciplinary proceeding. In civil court, she should be convicted. What I'm saying here should also apply to Sergio Moro when he lost his position and his protection. It should also apply to Deltan Dalagnol. She's not alone in this story. Civilly, she will have to pay millions and millions of reais in compensation. In the administrative disciplinary proceeding, she will be dismissed for the good of public service. She will lose her position as a judge. And here's the thing. Yesterday, the National Council of Justice agreed with the Supreme Federal Court to end the punishment of compulsory retirement. It's not really a punishment for judges and prosecutors, right? It's a reward. They mess up, do things over and over. Instead of being dismissed for the good of public service, losing their retirement, losing their salary, losing everything, you go into compulsory retirement while still getting your salary. The little perk for judges and prosecutors. The Supreme Court decided this. It went to the National Council of Justice, and the National Council of Justice decided yesterday that this kind of situation can't happen anymore. And here's the thing, the one who should have solved this is the National Congress. You see, the National Congress was supposed to change the legislation, and the National Congress didn't have the courage to do it. Who stirred up this hornet's nest? Flavio Dino. Flavio Dino was the one who had the courage to grab the devil by the horns together with Gilmar Mendes and say, this has to end. The Supreme Court decided in this way. It went to the National Council of Justice. The National Council of Justice corroborated and agreed with the Supreme Court, and this situation goes back to the Supreme Court for a final decision. What does that mean? That in the administrative disciplinary proceeding she's facing, she will lose everything. Okay? And there's also the criminal matter that she isn't facing yet. There's also the criminal case she'll still have to face. And I'll repeat, everything I'm saying has to apply, especially for Sergio Moro as well, who is currently shielded by parliamentary immunity as a senator. It should also apply to Deltan Dalagnol. She didn't do anything on her own, no. See? So this 2-year suspension is only related to the irregular decision she made. There are still civil, administrative, and criminal proceedings that she must answer for. All right, someone even mentioned this here. The federal congressman, Otoni de Paula, talked about this here. Should we check what he said here, guys? Like the live stream if you just joined and haven't liked it yet. Hey, don't leave me talking to myself. Don't leave me talking to myself. Please. Where is Otoni de Paula, for God's sake? I can't find him, guys. Let's take a look at this. The National Council of Justice's statement, and I'll see if I can find Otoni talking about this. Pay attention.
So that absolutely everyone understands, when a judge commits serious misconduct that is provided for in the Regulatory Act, which is Resolution 135, which reproduces what is provided for in the LOMUM as a punishment that warrants compulsory leave with national scope or loss of office. As soon as the court issues this decision, the judge will be immediately removed from his position. Justice and Constitution. The judge will be immediately removed from his position. He will receive proportionate pay until the Supreme Court rules on the civil action for loss of office. And there will also be a vacancy in the judicial unit occupied by this judge, so that in the future, if the civil action for loss of office is ruled unfounded, this judge can return to the judicial unit compatible with the one he previously occupied, which is nothing new. A compulsory leave measure today, with a minimum term of 2 years, already entails that consequence. I highlight finally, President, as we even discussed, and it seems to me to be the feeling of this Council of the need for a broader review of the regulations of this National Council of Justice related to the disciplinary regime of the judiciary. And obviously, Your Excellency, with your leadership and the concern you have shown for all issues related to the disciplinary regime, will have the ability to know the best moment to move forward on this topic.
That's it. This is progress, everyone. Huge progress. And I'll say, the Supreme Federal Court, through Flavio Dino, grabbed the devil by the horns and did what the National Congress didn't have the courage to do. Many deputies and senators complain, calling it judicial activism in similar terms. Let me tell you something. If you don't do it, someone has to. And the judiciary does it. If you don't do it, deputies and senators, the Supreme Court will do it. See? It has nothing to do with judicial activism. There is no power vacuum. If you don't do what you have to do, someone else will. And then there's no point complaining about it. Let's hear Antonio de Paula's speech. Pay attention to this.
It's impressive how the world turns. Actually, the world doesn't just turn, it flips over. You know that substitute judge for Sergio Moro back in the Lava Jato days? Dr. Gabriela Hatz? Well, she was the one who went after Lula at that time. Pay attention.
And when can I speak, Judge?
You can speak, you can answer when I ask, at the beginning.
Yeah, but as I understand, it's my turn to speak.
No, it's time to answer my questions. I'm not going to be interrogated or questioned here. Is that clear? Is that clear? That I'm not going to be interrogated?
Is that clear? I didn't expect it to be this way, Judge.
Me neither.
Since I've been a victim of a lie for
I
a
didn't
long
expect it either.
time, I
So let's
thought
start
that
with the
now...
questions.
Man, can you believe that this judge was suspended by the National Council of Justice for a little bit of corruption? By the way, actually not just a little bit of corruption. She was removed from office on suspicion of corruption involving more than 2.5 billion reais. Yes. She approved a private fund agreement in 48 hours that would receive the fines from the leniency agreements of the companies that were fined by Operation Car Wash. By the way, the Supreme Federal Court had already said that this fund was illegal. Now the judge has been suspended for 2 years by the National Justice Council. Man, what an irony of fate. Lula is president today, and the judge has been removed. It's impressive in the anti-community of Venta.
By the way,
That's true.
the world doesn't spin. The world flips, flips, flips. And if you did something wrong, you'll end up paying for it sooner or later. And if you did something wrong, get on your knees, ask for forgiveness, ask Jesus for mercy, and pay your debt so you don't face even more serious consequences. If you did something wrong, you'll pay, right, Sergio Moro? I want to know when Sergio Moro will actually pay. Because I'll say it again, she didn't do anything by herself. Sergio Moro's day of reckoning has to come. Otherwise, there really is no justice here in Brazil. It's selective justice, and they pick the woman to be humiliated. But there are people behind her, or rather, there are people in front of her. Right, Sergio Moro, your time will come. And Lula, 4-time winner soon. Look, tap the like button and hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it. Lula, 4-time winner in the first round. Cry, you cattle.